Greetings, cyberdogs and citizens of the internet. This is RENDOG'S coming at you from a boat just outside Mob Castle in this Let's Play Minecraft Survival series. In the previous episode, we were working on the jungle railway line, and in this episode, my friends, we are going to be going into the very depths of that amazing castle that you see behind me to set up some seriously awesome spawning pads of death and destruction. It is going to be absolutely awesome, my friends. You do not want to miss it. Sit back and relax. I hope you got something tasty to snack on, something delicious to sip on. Let's play some Minecraft Survival. Jeez Louise, cyberdogs, it feels like just the other day that the only thing we had in this location was a giant flat piece of freaking slab edge with a weird elephant structure on it and a zombie spawner beneath it, right? Man, this place has come on something freaking crazy, and I am so excited to play Minecraft with you guys today, man. I've got the day off from work, and I am ready to make an awesome episode of Minecraft Survival for you guys. And let me tell you something, man. I got home last night from work, and I sat down in front of my computer. I didn't even eat anything. I think I had like a peach, and I played Minecraft for 5 freaking hours straight. And as you can see, the fruits of my labors are something amazing, aren't they? I managed to put up all 4 walls of the mob castle, and we can now see what the castle looks like in its entirety. And I know that it's looking a little bit square and a little bit stone bricky right now, but don't you guys worry. We are going to be adding some amazing detail to the outside of this castle. Maybe we'll add like some stained glass windows and some awesome arches, support beams and freaking gargoyles, all that sweet ass jazz, man. We're going to get into the outside of the castle. But for now, I want to get the foundation set up so that we can get this sucker working properly, and then we can think about making it absolutely beautiful. Now guys, I have been working my freaking butt off on grinding in the strip mine outpost to get enough cobblestone and enough stone to make this place into the position that you see now. And I've probably done about 2 hours worth of mining, smelting, and placing of blockage to get the mob castle to where it is now. But I'm very, very happy with the progress. It is looking absolutely freaking amazing. Right, so let's go through some of the things that I have done to mob castle since we were last together. And as you can see, there is a giant thing sticking out the side of the castle. And I know that you guys are wondering, what in the jazz is that? And now that I look at it, it actually looks a little bit like the end of an elephant's trunk. Am I right? Man. This building should probably just be called The Elephant, right? I mean, every single freaking thing that I build looks like a piece of anatomy from an elephant. Anyhoozle, this chute is very important to the overall structure of Mob Castle, and let me explain to you why. Inside a mob castle, above the second floor of mob castle, the first floor is the processing facility where we are killing the mobs. The second floor is going to be an armory where we're going to store all of our weapons and armor. All the remaining floors are going to be dedicated to spawning more mobbage using dark rooms. And what we are going to be doing is trying to set up a configuration where mobs are going to spawn and then get flushed into a network of canals, which will eventually lead them to fall through this exit chute. And as they fall down there, they will fall into the delivery aqueduct, which takes them directly up a chute that goes 23 blocks up and then drops them into the kill zone, which is up there. So that is the mechanics of the mob castle, which I think is going to be absolutely ridiculously sweet when it's up and running. And the reason for that is when you're looking at mob castle from, over here, for example, or from the lakeside villa, you'll be able to see the mobs dropping down. It'll kind of be like a rain of the undead, right? Which will be really, really cool. And I think will kind of suit the whole feel of the mob castle very well. You know, this is a place of destruction and death. This is where we murder the undead in their droves. And what better way to signify that than a whole bunch of them dropping down in mid-air, landing in the water to be taken to their ultimate doom in a few minutes later. I think that is really, really awesome. Now, let me take you up into the heart of what is going to become a giant mob's dark room spawning thing. I don't really know how to explain what it is or how it's going to work, but as you can see, I have been making a little bit of headway over here. This is the top of the elephant that is now invisible, or now not visible from the outside, which is really cool because it's kind of damn butt ugly, is it not? And I have been trying to figure out a way, guys, to deliver these mobs into that aqueduct below. And it's very, very simple. We have a final aqueduct here, a main aqueduct chute that has got ice at the floor. And then we have some signs over here with 2 more water sources which will complete the flow. And the mobs are going to go all the way down here. And I'm not going to drop down here, but they will drop down into the delivery aqueduct below. So that is the theory of how this place is going to work. And all we need to do now is figure out a way to get all of the mobs that are going to be spawning in our dark rooms up here in Mob Castle to be delivered directly into this final aqueduct. The Deathqueduct, I suppose is what it should be called. And yeah, I think I have figured out a way to do that. Well, my friends, it looks like the second floor of Mob Castle has a little bit of an infestation of the undead. I've just come down here to clear this place of these foul rats. This room is going to eventually become our armory. We're going to be keeping all of our weapons and our armor that we get from the mobs, from the mob castle inside of here. Actually, that was a suggestion by one of you cyberdogs to collect all of the armor bits that we get from the mobs that we will be killing and storing them in the castle. I think that's a really cool idea. So I'm going to be turning this really big space into some sort of an armory, which is going to be absolutely amazing. I love the challenge actually of this particular room, because we have these 2 giant pillars in the center of the room, right, which is going to kind of change the way that we will be building inside of here, and we won't be able to just make a sort of modular room. We'll have to get a little bit creative with it. So that's going to be really sweet, man. But we're not going to be working on this armory today, guys. We are going to be focusing on working on the floors that are going to be spawning our final batches of mobs for Mob Castle. Now, the idea is that inside of this already big space around the elephant's head and trunk, we need to spawn mobs in dark rooms. We then need those mobs to be delivered into this final Deathqueduct. Yeah. The Deathqueduct, that's a really cool name for it. We need all of the mobs that get spawned inside of this space to be delivered into the Deathqueduct, and then they will be transported into the final delivery aqueduct, and eventually they will end up at the bottom of the killing pit where we can take them out, collect their balls, and collect their items. So, the theory is very, very simple here, right? What we're going to need to do is maximize the use of the space within this area. We have a lot of space to work with. However, we have a couple of challenges to deal with. Number one, we need to get the mobs to spawn in here, and that's pretty simple to do. All we need to make sure that we do, of course, is have no light sources up here, right? We need to make the room completely black, and that means that the mobs are going to be spawning on the pads that we select. Now, because we're going to be making the place completely black, we need to make sure that we control where the mobs are going to be spawning. So, for example, we'll need to cover the whole floor with slabbage so that no mobs will spawn on the slabs, and we'll probably need to cover the top, well, we will need to cover the tops of all of the aqueducts with slabs too, to prevent mobs from spawning on top of them. So that's a challenge. Another challenge is, of course, spiders. We don't want any spiders to be spawning inside of this darkroom trap, because we're not going to be able to deliver those spiders into the aqueducts. We've already had some serious problems with spiders, delivering them anyway, and it's been a real pain in the ass. So I want to make sure that we do not spawn any spiders in here. That's a serious problem, in fact, but I think that I have a pretty decent solution to how to solve that problem. Now, the third and final issue that we need to deal with is transporting the mobs from where they spawn to the final Deathqueduct and into the final delivery aqueduct below. And I think that I have figured out a way to do it. We're going to be using ice so that they travel super fast, and we're going to be using signs to continue the water trails. We're going to obviously be using water to push the mobs along these aqueducts, but of course the water will only travel 8 blocks, and we'll need to reset the stream. Now, because the floor of the aqueducts is going to be made out of ice, the theory is that the momentum that the zombies and the other mobs are traveling with will continue across the ice when they reach the end of the 8 blocks of water, and then we will start a new water source using a sign, and they will continue to be pushed along the aqueduct from that new source. Now, let me try and break it down for you exactly what I'm talking about over here. I've just set up this little aqueduct, and what we can do is stick a water source at the end of it. So let's stick a water source over here, and you'll see that this water source will travel all the way to this position, and it will run out of juice. Now what we need to do is stick a sign over here at the end of the water source, and now we're going to stick another water source at the other end of the sign, and that will sort of continue the flow of the aqueduct. Now I don't really know whether or not this is going to be strong enough to push a mob, or if the mob's going to continue into the next water source. But there we go. I didn't even touch the mouse there, and I actually did move. So it looks like it'll work. If it works for me, it'll work for mobs, right? This is probably going to happen quite a lot in this episode, my friends, but I just spotted the very first flaw in our build. There's absolutely no need to have this aqueduct running above this one. I think that we could probably find a way to make the mobs turn the corner like this without having to drop them into this line from above, which was my initial thought on the delivery scheme here. And the reason that I don't want to do it the old way is because we are not maximizing space here. By having this aqueduct a little bit higher than that one, we are losing out on a whole bunch of potential spawning area over here. So I think this is probably a better idea to try and turn the corner on the same level as that aqueduct over there. Let's see if I can actually make it happen. Alright guys, let's experiment a little bit, okay? So we've got our delivery aqueduct coming in this direction. It connects up to this one, which eventually turns the corner once again to go to the Deathqueduct over there. And let's see if we can actually make this work. If we stick a water source over here, oh, okay, that's a bit of an issue right there. It flows around the side of the corner, but I think this could actually work in our favor. If we stick a sign like that, that's going to control this water source all the way to this position. And I think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I think we're probably going to have to stick another sign somewhere like here, I guess. Let's try that one out. Is that going to be too far? Oh, no. Okay, that one's perfect. Nice. Okay, so the theory is that the mobs are going to drop from their darkroom spawning pads into this aqueduct, get pushed all the way down here, and then slip into this stream and continue their journey in this direction, eventually to be delivered down below. So now what we need to do is work out from that side. Let's get all the water in place to complete this delivery aqueduct. Cyber dogs, are you ready to be proud of the RENDOG'S? Oh man, I think that I've cracked the nut on this one, guys. You guys know that I'm not very good at technical Minecraft survival, but I think I have figured out how to make this thing work. Now, what I want to do is make the water source that is the first water source for this aqueduct end in this position over here, and then the end of this water source from this aqueduct end in this position over here. So the end of the sources will not touch each other, but there will still be a flow going through, if that makes any sense. So check it out, guys. I'm going to push the water source for this one all the way back here. It's going to go around the corner. So it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 blocks, and then I'm going to start the water source for this one in this position after the sign, and this is going to end right in this position over there. Now, if we do our little test, let's sit in the water and get pushed toward that little corner. Check it out. This one's going to suck me in. Now, hands off the keyboard. What we should do is take a turn to the left here without anything happening. Boom! Look at that. Turn to the left. Did you guys see that? Absolutely awesome. Now the question is, of course, whether or not we're going to be able to continue this flow, because we're going to have to insert a sign in this position. So let's have a look if we're going to have enough momentum to be pushed into that second water source over there. I'm hoping that we will. Let's do this thing, guys. We're going to go into this block. That should push us into this one. Yes, it works. Beautiful. Okay, that is absolutely fan-freaking-tastic. Now, I think we're probably going to have to do another sign over here, because I don't think we'll have enough momentum to be pushed into... No, we won't. Okay, so we're going to have to do another sign there. But guys, basically, I have cracked the nut on turning the corner for the delivery aqueducts. I'm going to high-five myself right now, man. Sweet! Instead of messing with the water sources in this delivery chute, guys, all I'm going to do is push this aqueduct one block in this direction, and that will mean that this water source ends right at the end of the ice block here. And actually, also on top of that, it'll line up our second aqueduct, which is going to be set up in this position beautifully with the delivery aqueduct that's coming from this side. So not only did I crack the nut on this one, but I have also maintained symmetry, made this place look less chaotic, and basically all types of awesome are going on right now, man. I am loving this jazz. Now guys, I don't want to get too ahead of myself right now. I'm very, very happy with how we're progressing right now. I feel like the build is coming together really naturally and I'm making all the right decisions. However, we need to figure out whether or not those aqueducts are going to deliver the undead. They may be able to deliver my butthole, but I don't know if they're going to be able to deliver the undead. Whether or not the undead are going to get trapped in the segments, in the sign sections, or they're going to glitch out. I mean, who freaking knows, right? So I think what we're going to have to do now is set up some of these darkroom spawning pads, try and get a few of these undead bastards spawned, and then deliver them into the aqueducts so that we can test this sucker to see if it's actually going to work the way that we want it to. Alright guys, just finished off this delivery aqueduct over here. I've raised the walls by one so the mobs can't jump out, and in theory, if we can spawn some mobs now, we should be able to deliver them along this chute into this one. They're going to turn the corner and eventually they're going to end up in the Deathqueduct to be delivered to the death platform on the first floor of the mob castle. So all we need to do now is figure out a way to spawn some mobs and push them into this aqueduct. We're going to be using darkroom spawners to actually spawn the mobs, and of course we know that darkroom spawners come with their own challenges. Number one, the challenge of how to not spawn spiders, right? Because spiders are an absolute pain in the ass to transport, and they do not like traveling along delivery aqueducts at all. The reason for that is because they can climb the walls, and yeah, they kind of get themselves out of the chutes. The second challenge is, of course, pushing the mobs that spawn on the darkroom spawning pads into a delivery aqueduct like this. And what we are going to try and do for this build is we're going to try and get a little bit technical up in here, okay? We are going to be using dispensers to dispense water to push these mobs into the aqueduct. Now, I know that doesn't sound too complicated, but we're going to have to try and find a way to trigger the dispensers over, let's say every 30 seconds, we need to trigger the dispensers, and then we need to untrigger them, right? So they're going to need to spit the water out and then suck the water back again, and then give a little bit of time for new mobs to spawn. The idea being that every single time the dispensers trigger, they are going to push whatever mobs have spawned on this platform into the aqueduct. And then when the dispensers trigger again, they're going to suck up that water and allow the mobs to once again spawn on the platform, only to be pushed back into the aqueduct a minute or so later. So we're going to have to try and find a way to create a redstone pulse that is going to be going into these dispensers every minute or so. And I think we could probably use something called a hopper clock to do that. Iskal showed me actually how to make a hopper clock on the Kingdom Craft server the other day. I didn't really understand it. I understand how it works, but together you and I are going to try and figure out exactly how a hopper clock works in the coming episodes, and it's probably going to be the most advanced bit of redstone that we've done in this series to date. So I'm pretty excited about it if we can actually make it work. Now I'm going to make all of the spawning spads out of cobblestone just to try and differentiate them from the other stuff inside of this this build. I think that'll just help to keep everything nice and neat. And the aqueducts will be made out of stone brick. But guys, let's try and figure out exactly how we're going to push these mobs into the aqueduct. Number one, how we're going to push the mobs into the aqueduct. Number two, how are we going to not spawn spiders, right? Because that's a pretty important thing that we need to figure out how to do. Now, the answer to the first question, I think, is pretty simple. Check it out, right? If we have a couple of lines like this, on our spawning spad, I'm just going to call it a spawning spad from now on. If we have a dispenser at the end of each of these lines like so, and if we stick a bucket of water in there with a button, we're going to be able to, let's actually, yeah, let's do something like this, right? Let's stick the button over there, and let's stick a redstone pulse all the way along like this, so it's going to trigger both of these dispensers. Let's get a bucket of water in there too. Now, when we hit this button, we should see that the water gets dispensed. Beautiful. I'd love to say that this was absolute luck, but actually, I did a little bit of research before starting working on this episode, and I figured out exactly where we needed to put this aqueduct so that the dispensers would spit the water right over here. So, I could take credit for it, but I'm not gonna. I don't think it would be appropriate. But anyway, guys, it is looking like it's working really, really nicely. I actually think that we're going to need to move this mechanism just a little bit back. We could actually just stick the button in here for now. Of course, the pulse, the redstone pulse, is going to be coming from the hopper clock. And I don't know where we're going to be sticking that. We've got a little bit of space to work with here, so we might put all the mechanics in this position. That could be pretty cool. But check it out, right? When we pulse again, the dispensers are going to suck up the water, and then this will give the mobs time to spawn again, and then say a minute or so later again, the redstone pulse will go again, and then the mobs are going to be pushed down from this water source into the delivery aqueduct below. So that's the theory. Nice and simple, right? I think it's a very, very simple design, and I think it could work really, really nicely. What we do need to do, though, is ensure that no spiders spawn over here, and I think that even though we've added another block above here, this isn't going to be good enough to stop the spawning of spiders. I think spiders need 2 blocks by 2 blocks to spawn, and if there's 1 block open available to the spider, it will be able to spawn in this position. So we're going to have to add, I think, a little bit of slabbage to this to stop those damn arachnids spawning and ruining our freaking days. I have returned with slabbage, my friends, and now we can start working on stopping the damn spiders spawning on top of our spawning pad. And I think we could probably do this by doing something like this, right? If we add a bit of slabbage over here, that's going to stop the spawning of a spider in this position, in these 4 positions here, right? So if you can imagine, this is where the spider is going to spawn. This bit of slabbage now prevents that completely. So that is awesome. Now what we could do is just continue this design all the way like this, and that is going to be cutting off the spawning of spiders all the way along this, in each of these positions here, right? So these 4 blocks, these 4 blocks, these 4 blocks. And I think if we just do that, all the way along these sort of delivery platforms here, that is going to do the trick to stop those spiders spawning. It still allows for other mobs to spawn in these positions, so it tries to basically make the mob trap as efficient as possible. And the theory there, of course, is that a mob that spawns here is eventually going to walk and fall into one of these delivery chutes eventually, and be pushed by the dispenser when the dispenser unleashes its water of fury, like that. So that's the theory, and I think that that is going to solve our spider problem. Whether or not it's going to work remains to be seen. So I think the best thing for us to do now is get this darkroom spawner set up and see if we can actually spawn some mobs. Well, it ain't the prettiest thing that I've ever made, cyber dogs, but the symmetry of it does look kind of cool, right? I've just finished working on our spawning pads over here, guys. The place is looking pretty sweet. Let's just get rid of all of the lights so that we can try and get some mobs to spawn in here. While I was working on this, though, I had a thought. We might have an Enderman problem in here. Endermen are not going to be able to spawn on this position because there's only 2 blocks above this spot. But on the lower, the aqueducts, the lower spawning pads, they might be able to spawn. I don't know if this is going to be enough space for Endermen to spawn. Do they need 3 blocks or 4 blocks to spawn? I'm really hoping that they need 4 blocks to spawn, because if not, we're going to have a little bit of a problem with this particular spawning pad design. However, I'm going to save that for some research off camera, figure out if that is in fact the case. For now, I want to get rid of all of this light around here and see if we can actually spawn some mobs in this particular pad. If we go to F3 and have a look at our light, it's currently on 7, which I think is probably good enough to spawn a mob or 2. I hope so. We might need to actually block off the light even more over here by engulfing the delivery aqueduct completely. So let me get that done, guys, and let's see if that'll affect the spawning in here. Alright guys, it is starting to get pretty damn dark inside of this spawning pad. I've just surrounded the ice with stone bricks just to make sure that no light can travel through that transparent block. And what I need to do now is just complete the roof, which is going to cut off light sources into that spawning pad like this. And I suppose we need to get rid of this light source too. and hopefully that is going to make the place dark enough to at least spawn 1 or 2 mobs. I literally just need 1 or 2 mobs to spawn so that I can test the delivery aqueducts to see if it'll actually push them into here and whether or not they will travel all the way into the Deathqueduct over there. So I'm hoping that this is now good enough. Let's get back in here and have a look at the light values. Let's have a look. Press F3. Light is at 3. Okay, excellent. So that should definitely be good enough to spawn something. Now what we're going to have to do is travel away from the spawning pad a little bit. I think we need to get at least 16 blocks away from it so that mobs can spawn in there. So let's go all the way down here, and hopefully that will spawn some mobs in there. In fact, I'm going to go to the ocean and then come all the way back, guys, and that will tell me whether or not something is spawned in there. And if it has, we can put the sucker to the test.